An elderly woman forced to play piano on live TV as a joke. Seconds later she stuns the world. The lights were blinding, and the laughter, sharp and careless, echoed through the studio. Eleanor Green, 84 years old and barely taller than the piano bench she was escorted to, blinked into the glare. Her hands, once strong and quick, now trembled slightly as she reached for the keys. The host, grinning at the camera, announced with mock grandeur, "Ladies and gentlemen, a very special performance from someone who claims she used to be a pianist, before Beethoven was born." The audience erupted in laughter. Eleanor smiled politely, though inside her heart ached. This wasn't what she had signed up for. She had entered a sweepstakes for senior citizens, a raffle promising an unforgettable day. No one mentioned it would be unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. Born in 1941 in a small Tennessee town, Eleanor had been a prodigy once. By the time she was 16, she had played for governors, church choirs, and in one glorious moment, on the stage of Carnegie Hall during a youth competition. But life has a way of interrupting dreams. Her father's passing, her mother's illness, and eventually, marriage and 3 children consumed her time and her talent. She hadn't touched a piano in over 3 decades, her own gathering dust in a dim corner of her modest apartment. Yet the music had never left her. It lived in the rhythm of her rocking chair, the lullabies she hummed to her grandchildren, and the quiet moments when her fingers moved through invisible keys while she waited for sleep. Now, Eleanor sat surrounded by people who expected a joke. Cameras rolled. Somewhere, millions watched, waiting for her to stumble, to forget, to fail. A young producer had smirked as he told her the piano was real but hadn't been tuned, not that it matters. Her fingers hovered. For a moment, she almost stood up, ready to excuse herself and walk away from the humiliation. But then she saw her reflection in the piano's glossy black surface, not the wrinkles or the thinning hair, but the spark in her eyes that reminded her of who she once was. She took a deep breath and placed her fingers on the keys. The first note came soft and slow, a whisper of memory. Then another, and another, tentative at first, then sure, confident, commanding. The studio fell silent. Laughter faded into stunned stillness. Eleanor was not just playing, she was telling. Each note carried a story, of lost youth, of love that survived hardship, of nights she cried quietly while holding a sick child. She played Chopin, her favorite, weaving through a nocturne so hauntingly beautiful it felt like time stopped. People watching from home dropped their forks, turned up the volume, and wiped away unexpected tears. In nursing homes, elderly residents whispered her name. In subway cars, office cubicles, college dorms, viewers sat transfixed. And in the control booth, the same producer who had laughed moments earlier now stood, mouth agape, with tears streaking down his cheek. When the final note faded, Eleanor sat still. The room was utterly quiet. Then, thunderous applause. But she didn't bow. Instead, she looked into the camera and spoke, her voice firm but kind. "They say when you grow old, the world forgets who you were. But I've learned that the heart doesn't age. The music's still in there. The dreams, the stories, they don't die. They wait. And sometimes, they get one last chance to be heard." The segment went viral within hours. Headlines changed from mockery to awe, elderly woman stuns nation with piano performance. They laughed, until she played. 84-year-old's music becomes a global message of hope. Donations poured in for music programs in retirement homes. Parents enrolled their kids in piano lessons. And Eleanor? She was invited to perform again, not as a joke, but as a guest of honor, at the Kennedy Center, on primetime. But the most touching moment came weeks later, when Eleanor received a letter from a single mother in Iowa. "I saw you play," it read. "I haven't touched my violin since my husband passed 5 years ago. But today, I played for my daughter. Thank you for reminding me who I am." Hundreds more letters followed, from retired musicians, war veterans, teenagers struggling with identity, and even the show's host, who wrote a handwritten apology and asked her to mentor his daughter. Eleanor didn't become a celebrity, not in the usual sense. She didn't want to be. Instead, she became something far more powerful, a symbol of resilience, of dignity, of the unbreakable human spirit. She started a small foundation with the Unexpected Donations, Second Movement, a non-profit that brought instruments and music teachers to senior centers, nursing homes, and low-income communities. She traveled when she could, speaking not about fame, but about the power of being seen and the importance of listening, especially to those the world too easily forgets. Years later, long after that performance, a reporter asked Eleanor what she remembered most about that night. She smiled gently. "Not the applause," she said. "It was the silence just before I played. That moment when I realized I could still choose, to walk away or to sing the truth of my soul. I chose the truth. And it saved me." In a world so quick to label, mock, and dismiss, Eleanor's story reminded millions that every life holds a symphony waiting to be heard. That dignity does not expire. That laughter can wound, but kindness, compassion, can rewrite the script. So the next time someone tells you you're too old, too late, too broken, or too much, remember Eleanor Green. Remember that music doesn't forget its instrument. And neither should we forget the worth of a soul that still dares to sing.